Tokonole is a protective leather finish made up of natural pastes, resins, oils, pigments, wax, and silicone. It is water-based and dries shiny and smooth, and primarily used to treat the surfaces and edges of leather to give them a really smooth, shiny appearance. It most often comes in clear, brown, and black colors. Let's take a look at the brief history and development of Tokonole. It's something most of us use today or have come across, and actually it's really cool learning about where it came from and how it developed. Siwa, the manufacturer of Tokonole, in 1939 near Tokyo, Japan, started the business. It primarily made chemicals for leather processing. A crafter named Professor Yashido Tani had been doing leather craft related research since the early 1930s. In the 1970s, they collaborated to develop a leather finish that made the surface look like polished water. Originally, naming ideas started as Toko Koba, and it evolved further to Tokonore. This was to reflect that it could be applied to all leather surfaces. After that, it evolved even further to the now familiar Tokonole. It was believed to have the most pleasing sound when saying it, and I would agree. Tokonole. At the time, the composition was a blend of 10 different compounds. It looked good, though its effectiveness didn't last very long. A few years later, in the 1980s, the source of some of the key imported compounds for manufacturing Tokonole were no longer available. The companies that produced them went out of business. So Siwa needed to replace those with locally sourced materials. After testing, they realized that those locally sourced materials made it a thicker, more effective composition that lasted longer. And these were both really huge benefits, especially while it still remained flexible. That new formula became the one that we're still using today. So let's take a look at how Tokonole kind of relates to other different burnishing substances. And so with things such as like beeswax, are essentially, just the wax and the composition of that, which itself has a lot of different compounds in it, or something like a Resolene, that's primarily an acrylic finish or something like that. Whereas Tokonole is a unique blend that's essentially a multi-function blend of substances. And this allows it to do a few things that are somewhat in a class of its own. So let's take a closer look at exactly what it is, and then we'll look at what it does. So here we've got a clear version of Tokonole. Comes in a few different colors, but this is going to be the most popular one. You've probably seen this around. And let's check out its consistency. So we've got this down here. Then I'll take this cosmetic sponge, which can be great for applying some things. Let's really dip it in, and then come over here to take a look. It's got some viscosity to it. Now it's not super drippy, but it's also got some drippiness to it. So it's kind of perfect, because if you're going to be crafting with it, you want it to stick to your surface so you have control over it, but not run off. It's actually really good. Let's see how, when we apply it to a piece of leather here, what that's going to look like. So typically what we'll do is we're going to apply it to our exposed edge. So we'll find those, we'll rub this on, and then you don't want to get too crazy, but you could do different layerings of it. For here, we're going to rub that off. So now you can see it on there. And then in general, what we'll do is give it a little bit, just to kind of set for a little bit. And then this will vary based on your process and your preference in terms of how your burnishing goes. But then we'll burnish with it, and that'll kind of help seal that edge. And I'm just doing this more for demonstration. It may take you a little longer to do that, but then what we'll get from it is essentially this type of an edge. It's going to look finished, smooth, and a little rounded, which is going to be different than our original edge like that. It still looks nice, the one here on the bottom. And it's going to add some benefits to us as well. So the one on the right is not protected. And when we drop water on it, we can see it kind of absorbs it. Then when we drop it on the Tokonole version, it almost resists it a little bit and kind of keeps it more concentrated. And so there's a bit of the water resistant properties of it when you're kind of looking side by side right at it. and it will absorb. It's not going to be, totally waterproof. I also didn't put a lot of layers on. I wanted to do just a little bit to show you the difference between something totally without it, and something with it. And so you could definitely add more layers. And even here you could see how that is starting to be effective already. And you get a little bit of a smoother edge. So it's interesting. And then I have an example here of a piece of leather. I put the Tokonole on right from here to the right. And you could see a slight color difference between here over, because that's where the Tokonole is. So let's try an experiment. I haven't done this yet. What we'll do is we're going to drop a little bit of water on both the left side, which is no Tokonole, and then the right side, which has a little bit. So here's the none, here's the some. Amazing. You could even see a huge color difference where here it's darkening that leather already, and here the water is, for the most part, still beating on the surface. So pretty incredible. And if you're looking color-wise, like, it's really tough to notice the difference. So from an application standpoint, you could put it on edges and even surfaces and have a pretty unnoticeable change to the color, yet it's going to give you some really impactful property characteristics. All right, so that's Tokonole in action, and there's certainly lots of different ways that you can apply it. How much you heat it while burnishing it, how much you put on, how many layers, how long you let it dry. It's going to be an art and skill all to its own. But ultimately, you could use it for, protecting leather surfaces, giving it some more strength and durability, even a little bit of scratch resistance. Or you could use it for, edge finishing as well, which is what it's really, really popular for doing, to give you, again, some nice finished edges as a burnishing compound, and then some water resistance, and durability as well. Something to keep in mind, it does expire. So about 3 years unopened, kept cool in a dark, cool place, it'll last, or it'll last about 1 year after opening. And so you'll likely be able to stretch it a little further maybe, or maybe you'll get some that expire a little sooner, depending if you're keeping it in really hot conditions or things like that. But it is important to keep in mind that if you are reaching for some, make sure that it is not expired, and that way it'll give you the best results in the projects that you're working with. So if you're looking for a time-tested finish that's going to work on your leather goods, especially helping with burnishing, things like that, Tokonole can be a great option. It's one of the favorites out there. So if you have a question or experience to share using it, or the different colors or any kind of results you've gotten, definitely share and let us know. And there you have it. Until next time.